We are back with another Savage video. Thanks to everybody liking, sharing, subscribing, all that cool stuff. You guys are the real rock stars around this place. When you're mining crypto, you might as well be saying that you are turning electricity into cryptocurrency, making those electricity dollars or magic internet money. So the cost of electric energy consumed is an important factor to determine if you are profitable or you're just throwing money away. Electricity usage is measured in kilowatt hours, or kWh. A kilowatt hour is a measure of how much energy you're using. It is simply a unit of measurement that equals the amount of energy you would use if you kept a 1,000 watt load, a 1,000 watt device running for an hour. For example, if your computer uses 500 watts to run, it will take 2 hours to consume 1 kilowatt hour of energy. If your mining rig uses 2,000 watts, it will take half an hour to consume 1 kilowatt hour of energy. And here's the important part, because since crypto mining is normally a 24-hour a day job for your devices, keeping all those blocks flowing, clean power delivery, and cost become some of the most important factors to consider in crypto mining. So you're going to want to take a look at what the prices for kilowatt per hour or kilowatt hour are for your area. And if you head over to paylesspower.com, they have some information over here for rates in the US. So you can find out basically your average electric rate, what it was in January of 2018, 2019, for comparison. I think there's some newer charts out there as well. But if you look real quick at the top 10 residential electricity rates by state, you can see that Hawaii has the highest. There's no one crypto mining in Hawaii. I mean, come on. 32 cents per kilowatt hour. Ouch. Rhode Island, really high. Massachusetts, Alaska, super high. I wouldn't think that Alaska would be that high, but that's kind of crazy. Connecticut, New Hampshire, California super high, but not the highest, which that did surprise me a little bit. That one in New York, I figured these would be way up at the top, but they're not. And then the bottom 10 residential electric rates by state. Oklahoma, we know Crypto Mikkel over there in Oklahoma gets super cheap electric. North Dakota, Louisiana, so on and so forth. So there are some, if you're under 10 cents, because the national average is somewhere around 13.35, I believe. If you're underneath that, then you're doing pretty well. And you can be profitable for, longer than most people can. The other 50% of the country anyway. So that's kind of cool. Something you definitely want to consider. There's other resources like EIA.gov. And this one, lays it out. This is a little bit newer. So this is November 2020, November 2019. So it does a comparison. And I'm only going to be covering residential. Some people can get commercial. It's in the US here, it's probably a zoning thing, I would imagine, with whether or not you could get commercial rates or not. So stick with residential, because this channel is more about like the home hobby crypto miner. Yeah, you can look down through here. I'll paste these links in the description of the video so that you can see what's up. Yeah, 1335. In 2019, the average was 1303. This year, or 2020, it was 1335. So that's 13.35 cents per kilowatt hour. So a really important question to ask yourself before embarking on a crypto mining adventure or a journey is, what is my actual electricity cost per kilowatt hour? And I say actual because whenever I was first looking at my bill, I did not total up the right things to determine how much, the right line items to determine how much I was actually paying for electricity. You have to add everything up that has kilowatt hour in it, basically. You got, for my bill, you've got basic monthly charge, is like monthly basic charge is like $5.50. And then you've got energy rate per kilowatt hour. And that's where I originally got my number from, because originally I was thinking that I was only paying 0.06988, which was freaking awesome, and I love that. But once I started looking at my bill, looking at my mining rigs, and really focusing on what was going on, I realized that I was making a huge mistake, because I needed to add in all those other costs, like the fuel rate per kilowatt hour, the environmental rate per kilowatt hour, total rate per kilowatt hour. So the total it should be the total, but I don't know if that is part of the bill or not. But once you total it up, it will be. Yeah, so you've got basic monthly charge, $5.50, energy charge. You can see right here it says 0.06624 per kilowatt hour. It's super cheap. I mean, that's awesome. But then you got to add in the fuel cost. This was like a Solar Smart fuel cost refund. Okay, so I guess maybe somebody had some solar for this bill here. So that's kind of cool. Environmental charge, 35 cents. You got a franchise fee, gross receipts, public service tax, all that stuff. Totals, you have to total all that stuff up. Just keep that in mind whenever you're looking at your bill. Because I made the mistake early on and misinterpreted this, and I made some errors in calculating my energy rate. Don't do the same thing I did. I'm doing this video so that you guys don't do what I did. So why does the electric cost actually matter? You might be wondering. Well, if you're a super small miner, you don't have a whole lot to worry about. Like if you've got one rig of, say, one rig of 10 series cards, 6 GPUs or something like that, you're not going to notice a huge difference. You will notice a difference, but not a huge difference. Now, obviously, if you scale up and you start adding a lot of rigs, then it's going to become even more important for knowing how much your energy cost is and calculating that into the operating costs and all that stuff of your operation. So you can see here, I'll just do a quick example here. We'll use one RX 580, and one RX 580 uses 130 watts according to what to mine, and at 10.3 cents is what my cost is per kilowatt hour. Then, oops, I need to do a calculate here. So one RX 580 earns after electric is $1.97, which is insane right now. Makes me happy. But before electric, it's $2.29, right, a day. Let's just say that we had Hawaii's cost, okay? So we'll put 32 cents in here for 32 cents per kilowatt hour. Calculate. And it's still actually profitable. That's crazy. That's only profitable on Ethereum and Ethash on NiceHash. And that's it. Everything, well, maybe a couple, NiceHash. So pretty much everything else not profitable on anymore. So you can see how the cost of your electric definitely plays into your profitability. Right now it's kind of like a bad calculation because Ethereum is so profitable right now, so it's almost like a little bit misleading possibly. Because if you can have 32 cents per kilowatt hour and still make a profit, everybody's like, yeah, I'm in, right? Which is what we're seeing because we surely can't get any GPUs right now. So let's go with 15 cents. A little bit higher than the national average. So you can just see how that plays out. A little bit profitable all the way down to some of the lower, actually, maybe the first 20 or so. So you got to get all the way down to Dubai coin before you're not profitable at that tight. But man, the difference, like let's say we were in Oklahoma, 8 cents, right? Now we're looking at, what did I do, calculate? I mean, some pretty good profitability from just a single RX 580. Pretty crazy. So get that back on my cost there. This rig is actually an 8 RX 580 rig. $15 . 15 1581 a day after electric. Awesome. Haven't seen that before. Not on that rig anyway. So speaking of electricity and electric cost and all that stuff, another thing that you have to kind of consider with crypto mining is your power supply. What type of power supply you have. I see a lot of people asking, hey, what size power supply should I get? I've got a 8 GPU rig, RX 580 or 5700 XT rig. What size power supply do I need? There are ways of calculating it. There's some numbers that you can just throw out there really quick. You can say, okay, so I want to look at, let's say I'm going to build a rig of, we'll go with NVIDIA 3060 Ti's, okay? If you could get them, you're going to build a rig with 3060 Ti's, and you're going to build a rig with 8 of them, okay? So 8 3060 Ti's, be a sweet rig. The TDP is 200 watts per, right? So now the thermal design power, that number is how much the GPU can consume, how much power it can consume, how much energy it can consume and still dissipate the heat. It is not saying that the maximum that it can take is 200 watts. It can take more than that. It's just that it can't get the heat off of the card, and you'll end up possibly damaging it if you run it, with too much wattage, because it's not able to get the heat off of the device. So you don't want to get to that point. So the TDP is 200 watts, and what did I say? 8? Did I say we were going to do 8? So 8 would be 1600. A worst case scenario, this card would hit 200 watts, right? If it was just stock in the rig, just mining, no OC, no undervolting or underclocking or anything like that, just a straight up stock everything, then it could hit 200 pretty easily, right? You're going to say 1600 for those components. Just for the GPUs alone, you're at 1600. Then you have to also include your CPU, your motherboard, memory, and peripherals, right? So if you've got like a hard drive, what type of hard drive you got, all this stuff adds up. And the general consensus is that you would throw about another 200 watts onto that to come up with, so was that 16 plus 200 for your not peripherals, but your supporting devices, motherboard, memory, processor, all that. So you're looking at 1800 watts. Now, you might be thinking, all right, so 1800 watts, I could get a 2000 watt power supply, or 2000 watts total, right? But that's not necessarily true, because there's this little rule in electronics that is called the 80% rule. The 80% rule says that if your devices, and this is specifically, the rule applies to devices that are going to be on all the time, right? If you've got a device that is on momentarily or for an hour and that's it, hour a day, then the 80% rule really doesn't apply that much. You're looking for, you're talking about devices that are on 24 hours whenever you're talking about the 80% rule. So the 80% rule is you should have a power supply. You should only use 80% of the power supply's capability. So if you've got 1,000 watt power supply, then you don't really want to push it higher than 80%, 800 watts. If you've got if you're at 2,000 watts with your peripheral, let's see, it was 1,800 watts with your supporting equipment, supporting hardware, and your GPUs, your 8 3060 Ti's. So you're at 1,800 watts. So what I would do in that instance, I would probably split it up and I would probably get 2 1,200 watt power supplies. Most likely is the way I would do it. Corsair, EVGA, one of those. Maybe you could probably get away with, say, 1,000 watt. I would say 1,000 watt desktop PSU, and then a 1,200 watt server PSU. So you could probably put 2, possibly 3 of the GPUs on the desktop power supply, and then put the rest on the server PSU with a breakout board and all that stuff. The server PSU is 1,200 watts if it's on 240. If the server PSU is on 120, then it's only 900 watts. So keep that in mind as well. And in each power supply, you only want to use 80% of the capacity, right? So you got to total all this up together, but definitely err on the side, on the high side, right? Be really generous with how much overhead, how much of that leftover wattage is out there, you know, because you don't want to push your devices too hard. You don't want to push your PSUs too hard either, because, you know, you can run into a situation where they'll overheat, you know, overheat and possibly cause a fire and all kinds of stuff. Now, a lot of PSUs these days have a lot of safety built into them, at least the higher end GPUs, at least the higher end PSUs. You know, they're a little less risky, but I would still pay attention to that 80% rule for sure. So you can also use like a calculator. You can go to Newegg. They have in their tools, they have a calculator here. So you could come in here and you could plug in some stuff here. Let's do like a basic, let's see if I was even remotely close with the power draw here. A lot of people put the 4400s, the Pentium 4400s, wherever those are. Pretty common. G4400. Motherboard. Go ATX. Not going to do a GPU. We'll do a memory. 8 gig. Solid state drive. Like if you were using a thumb drive, then you probably stick with this one. Like to boot the rig like I do. But just stick with solid state. No hard drive. Not installed. No optical drive. Not installed. So there you go. 127 watts basically for a basic setup, a basic system. And then if you add a GPU, now watch what happens. So we're going to add a 3060 Ti here. They have it in here. There it is. So that added, what was it, 240? So it's adding like 240 watts because of the GPU. And then if you go 2, it's probably not going to add this many. Actually, it did. So it's giving you 240. So there's probably a little bit of excess there because the TDP is 200. So it's really being generous with how much it consumes, right? So you got to, you know, as you're looking at this and as you're calculating it, that's what you got to think about. So they're saying 240. So if you go 240 on your 8 GPU rig, what does that come out to? So 240 watts times 8 3060 Ti's, 1920 right there alone. Then you've got your one, if you've got a 1200 watt on 240, then you're looking at not going above 900, right? 80%, so minus 900. So you've got to account for 1,000 more watts. So you would get a 1200 watt PSU, another 1200 watt. And you would actually be kind of pushing that 1200 watt. So might want to even think of more than 1200. And then power supplies are super expensive right now. So we'll go with 1200 watt. See what they look like. Yeah, 249. I like Corsair. Look at that, man. 443. Wow. Wow. Super expensive. And then I don't think that do they have HP power supplies over here? I don't know. And even those on this website are pretty expensive. I think you can get the HP 1200 watts like this a little bit cheaper, maybe on eBay or maybe even Amazon. So check those sources as well. Yeah, crazy stuff. So another thing that is going on with the power supplies that you have to kind of keep in mind is the rating, right? So if you're a home miner, then a home hobby miner, you don't really have to worry too much about the rating. And what I mean by rating, I mean that 80 plus. You'll see it on power supplies. Let me get one pulled up here so that I can show you. So you see this little 80 plus gold, like you'll see 80 plus gold, you'll see 80 plus silver, you'll see 80 plus platinum, 80 plus titanium. Titanium is the most efficient one, it's the best one. But the 80 plus, PSUs are given one of these certifications. There's 6 different levels. 80 plus, 80 plus bronze, 80 plus silver, 80 plus gold, 80 plus platinum, or 80 plus titanium, titanium being the most efficient. The 80 plus, it's a voluntary certification program that was created by Ecos Consulting. Now it's called Ecova, and that was all the way back in 2004. And whenever you're talking about power supplies, energy efficiency is the amount of power provided by the power supply divided by the amount of power that it draws from the outlet. So this is always expressed in like a percentage. So you would take, because the power supply is actually going to be pulling more at the wall than it is actually putting out to the devices attached to it. And that's where this efficiency rating comes in. And remember that it is voluntary. So if a device hasn't, submitted their sample devices to Ecos Consulting, now it's called Ecova, to be analyzed and ran through their certification, then they can't have that rating. They can't just plug it on there and put it on there and call it good. They have to actually get certified by Ecova. So for example, if a power supply draws 100 watts and it provides 80 watts of power, then that power supply has an energy efficiency of 80%. So the different levels, they all have different efficiencies at different loads. So they test them. The way that Ecova actually tests them is they test them at 10% load, 20% load, 50% load, and 100% load. And, then they figure out the efficiency at those different levels, at those different loads. And then that's where they get the 6 different levels of plus bronze, silver, gold, platinum, or titanium. Titanium is 94% efficient at 50% load. Platinum is 92% efficient at 50% load. So you can see as you get 100, well, actually, I don't know, did I say 100% also? So they do test it at 100%. A titanium at 100% is 90% efficient. And at 100% load, platinum is 89. So you see they're super close at 100% load. At 100% load, 80 plus gold is 87% efficient. So you can see how that actually works. And you can also see, because they are so close, like some people will go all out and want to get a platinum or a titanium whenever they are losing, a little bit of their potential return on that investment, because they aren't gaining a whole lot by spending the extra money. Let's look at a couple of examples here. So this one is 225 as gold. If we click on bronze, it's 79. Okay, so is that the same wattage? That's not the same wattage. Hang on. See if they have a 750. Okay, so a 750 bronze in this thermal take is $100. In gold, the 750 is only $10 more. So like if this was me and I was looking at this, I would probably go ahead and get the gold because it's only $10 more. Let's see if it's also, I guess they're both modular. This one's semi-modular. Okay, so yeah, I'd probably get this one in that case, the gold, because it's only $10 more. And for that 3060 Ti rig, you would probably need to go ahead and bump it up to a 1500 watt power supply. You would need a 1500 watt and a 1200 watt server PSU operating on 240, not 120. So that's the way I would lay out that rig. So you're looking at $400 power supply if you bought it brand new. These usually have a pretty long warranty. I think they're like 10 years. I don't know if Thermaltake has 10-year warranty or not. 5 years, it looks like. So Thermaltake has 5-year warranty on it. So you might be able to find some used, eBay type stuff that still is actually under warranty. So just to recap, it's super important to know how much your power costs per kilowatt hour, and don't not do the calculations because you want to be so optimistic that you want to get, like I was, and you want to get that number as low as possible. Be realistic, add it all up, know what your actual cost is, because that is important in calculating everything. Now, on the efficiency side of the power supplies, at the higher scales, if you're like a home hobby miner and you got 1 or 2 rigs or even 3 or 4, then you're probably okay with pretty much any efficiency of a power supply. But if you start scaling up, then you're going to see a huge difference between, you know, a 90% or a 94% efficiency and an 88 or 87 or 86. So keep that in mind. If you do start growing and you go from, you know, 3 rigs to 50 rigs, then that efficiency rating of those power supplies will definitely come into play. So, all right, guys, that is going to do it for me. If you found this video helpful or at least entertaining or whatever, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and click the notification bell. Make sure you do that so that you get notified whenever I go live or post a new video. I will see you guys tonight. I think we're doing a giveaway of 5,000 Raven for me getting 3,000 subs on the channel here finally. No, I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Stay savage, everybody.